The morning sun cast long shadows across the purple grass of Cathara 7 as Dr. Hyune knelt beside a cluster of crystal flowers. Her scanner beeped softly as it recorded the plant's unique biosignature. 3 months on this alien world, and she still felt amazed by every new discovery. "Temperature readings are stable," called Taeho from behind her. The communications specialist checked his equipment one more time. "Weather looks good for the next 6 hours. Min-soo stood nearby, his hand resting on his weapon. The security officer never seemed to relax, even after weeks of peaceful exploration. "We should stay close to the shuttle today," he said. The orbital scans showed some unusual movement patterns in this sector. Hyune smiled as she carefully placed the crystal flower sample into her collection case. "Min-soo, we have been here for months. Nothing dangerous has shown up yet. This planet seems completely peaceful." She stood up and brushed the purple pollen from her knees. The alien world felt warm and welcoming. The air smelled like honey and rain. Strange bird-like creatures sang from the silver trees that dotted the landscape. It was hard to believe this beautiful place might hide any threats. "Still," Min-soo said, "protocol is protocol. We stay alert." Taeho adjusted his communication array and pointed to a small hill ahead. "The next survey point is just over that ridge. Should take us about 20 minutes to reach." The 3 humans walked across the alien grassland. Hyune collected samples as they moved, filling her case with soil, plants, and interesting rocks. Everything on Cathara 7 seemed to have a slight crystalline quality that made it sparkle in the sunlight. As they climbed the small hill, Hyune noticed something odd about the sounds around them. The singing from the trees had stopped. Even the gentle buzzing of the insect-like creatures had gone quiet. The silence felt heavy and unnatural. "Do you hear that?" she asked, stopping to listen. "Hear what?" Taeho looked around nervously. "Exactly. Nothing. All the sounds just stopped." Min-soo immediately drew his weapon and activated his scanner. "Life signs," he said quietly. "Multiple contacts, large ones, moving toward us from 3 directions." Hyun-ai felt her heart start beating faster. She looked around but saw nothing except the purple grass and silver trees. The landscape appeared empty and peaceful, but her instincts told her something was very wrong. "How many?" she whispered. "At least 12, maybe more. They are staying just out of visual range but getting closer." Taeho grabbed his emergency communicator. "Should I call for pickup?" Before anyone could answer, they appeared. The creatures seemed to rise from the grass itself, as if they had been lying flat and invisible until that moment. They looked like wolves, but wolves made of living crystal. Their bodies caught and reflected the sunlight in brilliant flashes of blue and silver. Each one stood as tall as a human at the shoulder. The pack moved with perfect coordination, flowing like water across the landscape. They formed a wide circle around the 3 humans, cutting off all escape routes. Their crystal bodies hummed with a low musical tone that seemed to come from inside their chests. "New contact protocol," Min-soo said, his voice steady despite the danger. "We back away slowly toward the shuttle. No sudden movements." But Hyune found herself studying the creatures instead of preparing to retreat. Something about their behavior seemed wrong for predators. They moved with purpose, yes, but also with what looked like curiosity. Their large eyes, which glowed with soft inner light, focused on the humans with intelligence rather than hunger. "Wait," she said softly. "We need to go now," Min-soo insisted. "Look at their formation. This is a hunting pattern." The crystal wolves continued their approach, but they moved slowly, almost carefully. The humming from their chests grew louder, creating a complex harmony that reminded Hyune of whale songs from Earth. It was hauntingly beautiful. "They are trying to communicate," she realized. "They are trying to surround us," Min-soo corrected. "Hyune, we leave now or we might not leave at all." The largest of the crystal wolves, distinguished by deeper blue coloring and more elaborate crystal formations along its spine, stepped forward. It tilted its head and made a series of soft clicking sounds. The other pack members stopped moving and waited. Hyune watched the creature's body language. Its ears were forward, not back. Its tail was held neutral, not aggressive. Most importantly, its mouth remained closed, showing no teeth. Everything about its posture suggested curiosity and caution rather than attack preparation. "I think they are just as scared of us as we are of them," she said. "Scared things can still be dangerous things," Minsu replied. "Protocol says we retreat to safe distance and observe from the shuttle." Taeho's equipment beeped urgently. "I am picking up some kind of electromagnetic field from them. It is strong and getting stronger. They might be charging up for an attack." The circle of crystal wolves tightened slightly. The humming grew more complex, with individual voices joining and leaving the harmony in patterns that seemed almost like language. The electromagnetic readings spiked again. "That is it," Minsu said. "We are leaving right now." He took a step backward toward the shuttle, but the movement caused an immediate reaction from the pack. Several wolves moved to block his path while others shifted to maintain their circle. The humming became more urgent. "They do not want us to leave," Hyune observed. "Then we make them want us to leave," Minsu said, raising his weapon. No, the word came out more firmly than Hyune intended. "Look at them. Really look. They could have attacked already if they wanted to hurt us. They are much faster than we are. But they have not. They are trying to understand us just like we are, trying to understand them." The lead wolf took another step closer, its glowing eyes fixed on Hyune with unmistakable intelligence. It made more clicking sounds, softer this time, almost gentle. "First contact protocol clearly states," Minsu began. "First contact protocol assumes hostility," Hyune interrupted. "But what if we are wrong? What if this is not an attack? What if this is exactly what we came here hoping to find?" She looked at her two colleagues, then at the circle of magnificent crystal beings surrounding them. Her scientific training told her to be cautious. Her survival instincts told her to run. But something deeper, something purely human, told her to trust the intelligence she saw in those glowing eyes. "I'm going to try something different," she said. And before either man could stop her, Dr. Hyune sat down cross-legged on the purple grass of an alien world, surrounded by creatures that could kill her in seconds, and began to open her sample case. The moment Hyune sat down on the alien grass, everything changed. The crystal wolves stopped moving completely. Their musical humming cut off mid-note, leaving only silence across the purple landscape. Even the wind seemed to pause, as if the entire planet was holding its breath. "Hyune, what are you doing?" Minsu whispered urgently. His weapon remained raised, but his voice shook slightly. She ignored him and opened her sample case with slow, deliberate movements. The lid made a soft click as it came free. Inside, her collection tools caught the alien sunlight and sparkled almost like the creatures surrounding them. The lead wolf tilted its massive head further to one side, its glowing eyes fixed on her hands as she reached into the case. The other pack members shifted their weight but stayed in position, watching with obvious fascination. "I think they expected us to run," Hyune said quietly. "But we did not run. Now they do not know what to do." She pulled out her first item, a standard nutrition bar from their emergency supplies. The silver wrapper crinkled as she unwrapped it slowly. The familiar smell of processed protein and vitamins filled the air. "Here," she said, holding the bar toward the lead wolf. "Food. From my world." The creature made a soft whining sound, almost like a question. It took one careful step, closer then stopped. Its nose twitched as it caught the scent. "She is trying to feed a predator," Minsu muttered. "This is insane." "No," Taeho said suddenly. His communication equipment was beeping with new readings. "Look at the electromagnetic patterns. They are not random anymore. There is structure. Here. Language structure." Hyune placed the nutrition bar on the grass between herself and the lead wolf. Then she reached back into her case and pulled out a water purification tablet. She held it up so the creature could see it clearly. "Water cleaning," she explained, miming the action of dropping it into liquid. "Makes water safe to drink." The wolf's ears perked forward. It made a series of clicking sounds that were definitely not random. The other pack members responded with their own clicks and soft whines. It sounded like a conversation. "They are talking about us," Tejo confirmed, studying his readings. "The electromagnetic signatures are shifting in response patterns. This is definitely communication." Hyune smiled and reached for her next item. A small medical scanner emerged. From the case, its blue indicator light blinking steadily. She demonstrated its function by running it over her own arm, then showed the readout to the wolf. "Medicine tool," she said. "Helps fix hurt bodies." The lead wolf stepped closer. Now it was only 3 meters away, close enough that Hyune could see the intricate crystal patterns that covered its body. Each crystal seemed to pulse with its own inner light, creating a constantly shifting display of colors. "It is beautiful," she whispered. The wolf seemed to hear her tone even if it could not understand her words. It made a sound that was almost like purring, deep and rumbling. The sound spread through the pack as other wolves began to echo it. "They like her voice," Tejo observed. "The frequency matches something in their own communication range." Encouraged, Hyune continued her display. She pulled out her personal tablet and activated the photo gallery. Images of Earth appeared on the screen, cycling through forests and oceans, cities and mountains. The lead wolf's reaction was immediate and dramatic. It dropped into a crouch, bringing its massive head down to the same level as the tablet screen. Its glowing eyes reflected the images as they changed. When a picture of Earth's blue oceans appeared, the wolf made a sound of what could only be wonder. "Water," Hyune said, pointing to the ocean image. "Much water on my world." The wolf looked from the screen to her face, then back to the screen. It made a complex series of sounds that included clicks, whines, and what sounded almost like words. The other pack members moved closer, abandoning their circle formation for the first time since they appeared. "The containment is breaking down," Minsu warned. "They are not following their attack pattern anymore." Because it was never an attack pattern, Hyune realized. It was a contact pattern. They were trying to figure out what we were before, deciding how to respond. She scrolled to more pictures from Earth. Images of her family appeared on screen. Her parents smiled from their garden in Seoul. Her brother waved from his apartment balcony. Her nephew played in a park filled with earth flowers. The lead wolf made a soft sound and gently touched the screen with the tip of one crystal claw. The touch was incredibly gentle, barely making contact with the surface. When the image changed to show her nephew laughing, the wolf pulled back and looked at Hyune with what seemed like understanding. "Family," she said, pointing to herself and then to the images. "My pack." The word pack caused an immediate stir among the creatures. They began clicking and humming to each other with obvious excitement. The lead wolf sat back on its haunches and began what was clearly a formal communication. "Tejo, are you getting this?" Hyune asked. "Every bit of it. The patterns are incredibly complex. This is not just animal communication. This is sophisticated language with grammar and syntax." The lead wolf finished its speech and waited. The silence stretched for long moments. Then slowly it began to glow brighter. The crystals along its spine pulsed with deeper colors. The light spread to the other pack members until they all shone like living jewels in the alien sunlight. "Whoa," Minsu breathed, finally lowering his weapon. "That is not aggressive behavior." Hyune reached into her case again and pulled out her emergency blanket. The thin material unfolded into a large reflective sheet. She wrapped it around her shoulders like a cloak, then offered one corner to the lead wolf. "Sharing," she said. "Warmth sharing." The wolf studied the blanket for a moment, then carefully took the offered corner in its mouth. The material stretched between them, connecting human and alien under the purple sky of a distant world. The moment their connection was established, something extraordinary happened. Hyune felt a gentle presence in her mind, like a whisper made of light and music. It was not invasive or frightening. It felt like the mental equivalent of a polite knock on a door. "They are telepathic," she gasped. "They can share thoughts." The presence grew stronger, bringing with it images and emotions that were definitely not her own. She saw vast crystalline cities beneath alien stars. She felt the warmth of pack bonds that connected minds across great distances. She experienced the joy of the hunt, not for killing, but for the perfect coordination of many minds working as one. And underneath it all, she felt something that surprised her more than anything else. Loneliness. These magnificent creatures, for all their pack bonds and mental connections, had been alone in the universe. They had never encountered another species that could think and dream and create. They had been the only voices singing in the cosmic dark, until now. They thought they were alone, Hyune whispered, tears running down her cheeks. They have been waiting so long to find someone else who could think like they do. The lead wolf made a sound that was unmistakably gentle. It released the blanket and moved closer, settling down on the grass beside her. One by one, the other pack members did the same, forming a circle around the three humans. But now it was not a hunting circle. It was a sharing circle. And for the first time in the history of both species, humans and aliens sat together under a foreign sky, no longer alone in the universe. The telepathic connection grew stronger as the minutes passed. Hyune found herself receiving clearer images and emotions from the lead wolf. Through the mental link, she began to understand that the creature had a name, or something like a name. The closest translation her mind could form was Jinwoo, though she sensed it meant something more like keeper of first memories. Jinwoo shared more images with her. She saw the pack's journey to this world, traveling in ships that looked like giant crystals floating through space. She felt their confusion when they first detected the human shuttle, and their careful decision to investigate rather than hide. They have been watching us for days, Hyune told her companions. They were trying to decide if we were dangerous. And what did they decide? Minsu asked. He had put his weapon away completely but still looked nervous about being surrounded by the crystal wolves. Through the connection, Hyune sensed amusement from Jinwoo. The emotion was warm and almost playful. They think we are very small and very strange, she said with a smile, but not dangerous, at least not to them. Tae-ho was frantically recording everything with his equipment. The linguistic patterns are incredibly complex. They are not just sharing simple concepts. This is full language with abstract ideas and emotional content. Jinwoo turned toward Tae-ho and made a series of clicking sounds. The communication device in Tae-ho's hands began responding with similar clicks and electronic tones. It is trying to talk to my equipment, Tae-ho said in amazement. It understands that this machine is for communication. More images flowed through Hyune's mind from Jinwoo. She saw their homeworld, a place of incredible beauty with cities made entirely of living crystal. But she also saw something troubling. Large areas of the planet were dark and lifeless. The crystal cities were fewer than they had once been. Something is wrong with their world, she said aloud. I can see it dying. Jinwoo's mental presence became heavy with sadness. More images came, showing the gradual failure of their planet's ecosystem. The crystal forests were withering. The singing creatures that lived in harmony with the wolves were going silent forever. Their people were struggling to survive. That is why they came here, Hyune realized. They are not explorers. They are refugees. The other pack members began sharing their own thoughts through the connection. Hyune felt overwhelmed by the flood of emotions and memories from multiple minds. But through it all, she sensed something that surprised her. Hope. They think we might be able to help them, she said. But I do not understand how. Jinwoo stood up and walked to where Hyune had placed her tablet. The device was still showing pictures of Earth. With careful precision, the wolf used one claw to scroll through the images. It stopped at a picture of a forest filled with many different types of trees and plants. The mental connection filled with excitement from the entire pack. Jinwoo projected an image of their dying homeworld, then somehow combined it with the Earth forest picture. The meaning was clear. They want to know how our world stays alive with so many different species living together, Hyune said. She thought about Earth's ecosystems, focusing on the interconnected relationships between plants, animals, and the environment. Through the telepathic link, she tried to share the concept of symbiosis, the way different species helped each other survive. The reaction from the pack was immediate and intense. Jin Wu sat back on its haunches and howled, a sound of pure crystal music that echoed across the landscape. The other wolves joined in, creating a harmony that made the air itself seem to shimmer. "What did you tell them?" Minsu asked, covering his ears against the beautiful but loud sound. "I showed them how species on Earth work together instead of just competing," Hyune replied. "I think it is a completely new idea for them." Through the mental connection, she began to understand why. The crystal wolves were pack hunters, but their entire culture was based on competition between packs. They fought for territory, for resources, for survival. The concept of cooperation between different groups was foreign to them. But now Jin Wu was sharing new images with her. She saw the wolf packs on their homeworld, isolated and competing while their planet died around them. Then she saw a different image, one that seemed to come from Jin Wu's imagination rather than memory. Packs working together, sharing knowledge and resources, healing their world instead of fighting over its dying pieces. "This could change everything for them," Hyune whispered. The howling gradually stopped, but the excitement in the telepathic connection remained strong. Jin Wu moved closer to Hyune and gently touched her hand with its crystal nose. The contact intensified their mental link. New images flowed between them. Jin Wu showed her more of their technology, their ships, their knowledge of other worlds. In return, Hyune shared memories of human cooperation, of cities where millions of people worked together, of international projects that brought different nations together for common goals. "They are incredible," she said to her companions. "Their technology is far beyond ours in some ways, but they never learned to cooperate the way humans do." "What are they asking from us?" Taeho wanted to know. Jin Wu seemed to understand the Yai question even without telepathy. The wolf moved to the center of their circle and began a complex display. It used its claws to draw patterns in the purple grass, creating what looked like a map. Then it howled in specific tones, and the other pack members responded by moving to different positions around the drawing. "It is showing us their social structure," Hyune realized. "Each pack controls a small territory and they fight with neighboring packs for resources." Jin Wu drew more patterns, showing how the territories could be connected instead of separated. The wolf looked directly at Hyune and projected a simple but powerful emotion. Question. "They want to know if humans would teach them how to work together," she said. "They want to learn cooperation." But then Jin Wu shared something else, something that made Hyune's heart race. Images of many packs, hundreds of them, spread across multiple worlds. The crystal wolves were not just one small group. They were an entire civilization, and they were all facing the same problems. "How many of your people are there?" she asked through the mental connection. The answer came not in numbers but in feelings. Vastness. Multitudes. More packs than stars in a night sky. "They are offering us contact with their entire civilization," Hyune told her companions. "But they want something in return. They want us to teach them human cooperation." Minsu looked skeptical. "Can we trust them? This could be some kind of trap." But Hyune could feel Jin Wu's thoughts directly. The wolf's mind was open to her, hiding nothing. She sensed honesty, desperation, and a hope so strong it made her want to cry. "They are not capable of lying through the telepathic connection," she said. "I can feel everything they think and feel. They are genuinely asking for help." Taeho was studying his readings again. The linguistic analysis supports that. Their communication patterns show sincerity markers. They are being truthful. Jinwoo moved closer to Hyune and placed one massive paw on her knee. The touch was gentle despite the creature's size and obvious strength. Through their connection, the wolf shared one final image. Crystal cities restored to life. Dying worlds, brought back to health. Multiple species working together across the stars. And at the center of it all, the small human female who sat down on alien grass and chose to share instead of fight. They think we could help save not just their civilization, but create something new. Hyune said quietly. A cooperation between species that has never existed before. She looked at her two companions, then at the circle of magnificent crystal beings surrounding them. The decision they made in the next few minutes could change the course of history for both species. What do we tell Earth Command? Minsu asked. Hyune smiled and reached out to touch Jinwoo's crystal fur. It felt warm and alive under her fingers, humming with gentle energy. We tell them that humanity's greatest adventure is just beginning, she said. And it starts with 3 humans and a pack of crystal wolves who chose trust over fear. Jinwoo's mental voice filled her mind with something that felt like laughter, joy, and infinite possibility all at once. The pack protocol was broken. Something better was about to begin. 2 weeks had passed since the first contact, and the purple grassland of Kethara 7 had become the site of the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. The research camp now included additional equipment beamed down from their ship, and Jinwoo's pack had been joined by 2 other crystal wolf groups. Hyune sat in the center of what had become a permanent sharing circle. Her telepathic connection with Jinwoo had grown stronger each day, allowing for more complex communication. Today, she was about to learn the full truth about the crystal wolves' situation. Show me your homeworld as it was, she asked through the mental link. Jinwoo's consciousness opened to her completely. Images flowed into Hune's mind of a planet that had once been paradise. Crystal cities rose like music made solid, their spires singing in harmony with the wind. The forests were alive with creatures that looked like living jewels, and the ocean sparkled with bioluminescent life. It was beautiful, she whispered aloud. But then Jinwoo showed her what came next. The singing stopped first. The jewel creatures began to dim and fade. The crystal forests lost their music and became silent stone. The oceans turned dark and empty. What happened to your world? Hyune asked. The answer came in waves of emotion and memory. Competition. Endless competition between packs. Each group hoarded resources, defended territory, fought for dominance. As their population grew, the fighting intensified. Packs destroyed, shared resources to prevent rivals from using them. They poisoned water sources, burned forests, and turned cooperation into a sign of weakness. You destroyed your own world through competition, Hyune realized. Jinwoo's mental presence felt heavy with shame and regret. More images came, showing the exodus from their dying planet. Thousands of crystal ships carrying refugee packs to distant worlds searching for new places to call home. But even in exile, the old patterns continued. Packs fought each other for the best territories on new worlds. We bring death wherever we go, Jinwoo's thoughts conveyed. We know only how to take, not how to give. Hyune felt tears running down her cheeks. Through the telepathic link, she sensed similar emotions from the other wolves in the circle. They were all carrying the guilt of their species' greatest failure. But that can change, she said firmly. You can learn a different way. She opened her own memories to Jinwoo, sharing images of Earth's recovery from environmental disasters. She showed him cities rebuilt after wars, forests replanted after destruction, oceans cleaned after pollution. Most importantly, she showed him humans working together to solve problems that no single group could handle alone. Cooperation made us strong, she explained. Not competition. Taeho looked up from his communication equipment. I am receiving signals from orbit. More crystal ships are arriving in the system. The word is spreading about what is happening here. Min-Soo checked his security scanners. How many ships? Dozens. Maybe hundreds. They are coming from all directions. Jinwoo's thoughts suddenly filled with excitement and anxiety. Through the mental link, Hyune sensed that pack leaders from across their entire civilization were coming to witness this unprecedented event. The idea of humans teaching cooperation to crystal wolves was spreading through their collective consciousness faster than their ships could travel. They are all coming here? She asked Jinwoo. The answer came with images of massive crystal ships descending toward Kethara 7. Pack leaders who had never worked together, who had been enemies for generations, were putting aside their conflicts to see if the humans really could teach them a better way. This is incredible, Taeho said, watching his readings spike. The electromagnetic signatures are off the charts. There must be thousands of them coming. Hyune felt overwhelmed by the responsibility. Through Jinwoo's memories, she could see the scope of their civilization's problems. Dozens of worlds were failing as pack competed with pack. Entire populations were dying while their leaders fought over the remaining resources. "I do not know if I can help so many," she admitted to Jinwoo. But the Crystal Wolf's response surprised her. Jinwoo shared an image of the sharing circle they had created, but expanded it to include thousands of crystal wolves and humans working together. The image felt less like a memory and more like a vision of what could be. "You do not have to save us alone," Jinwoo's thoughts conveyed. "You can teach us to save ourselves." Over the next few days, the crystal ships began landing. Each arrival brought new challenges as pack leaders who had been enemies for centuries found themselves in the same area. Fights broke out almost immediately, but something unexpected happened. Jinwoo's pack and the other groups that had learned from the humans began intervening. Instead of joining the fights or choosing sides, they formed sharing circles around the combatants. They used their telepathic abilities to project the emotions and memories they had received from Hyune. "They are teaching each other," Hyune observed with amazement. She watched as aggressive pack leaders suddenly stopped fighting when they felt the human concept of cooperation flowing through their minds. The sharing circles grew larger as more wolves experienced the possibility of working together instead of competing. But not all the arrivals were convinced. A particularly large and aggressive pack leader named Kang Ho challenged the entire concept. Through the telepathic network, his thoughts were filled with scorn and disbelief. "Humans are weak prey animals," his mental voice projected to everyone in range. "They survive by hiding and running. They cannot teach strength to hunters." Jinwoo bristled at the insult, but Hyune placed a calming hand on the crystal wolf's back. Through their connection, she shared an idea that made Jinwoo's consciousness light up with understanding. "Let me show him what human strength really looks like," she said. The next morning, Hyune stood in the center of a massive gathering. Hundreds of crystal wolves formed concentric circles around her, their crystalline bodies creating a natural amphitheater that sparkled in the alien sunlight. Kang Ho sat in the front row, his dark crystal spines radiating skepticism. "You think humans are weak because we do not fight for resources," Hyune began, speaking both aloud and through the telepathic network that Jinwoo helped her access. "But let me show you what we do instead." She opened her memories to the entire gathering. Images of the International Space Station flowed through hundreds of crystal wolf minds, former enemies from Earth working together in the void of space. She showed them the Mars colonies, where people from dozens of nations cooperated to survive on a hostile world. "We do not fight over resources," she explained. "We create more resources by working together." But then she shared something even more powerful. Memories of human disasters and how people responded. Earthquakes where strangers risked their lives to save each other. Floods where entire communities worked together to help victims. Pandemics where the entire species cooperated to develop cures. "When humans face extinction, we do not turn on each other," she projected to the assembled wolves. "We turn toward each other." The silence that followed was profound. Even Kang Ho seemed stunned by what he had experienced. Through the telepathic network, Hyune could feel the thoughts of hundreds of crystal wolves as they processed these new concepts. "This is why your species survived." Jinwoo's voice came through the connection, filled with wonder. "This is why you spread across the stars instead of destroying yourselves." Kang Ho stood up slowly. His massive form towered over the humans, but when he spoke through the telepathic link, his mental voice was no longer aggressive. "Show us how to do this," he said simply. "Show us how to turn toward each other instead of away." Hyune looked around at the sea of crystal beings surrounding her. Each one represented not just an individual, but an entire pack with territory and resources and traditions. The task ahead seemed impossible. But then she remembered her first day on this world, when she sat down in the grass and chose to share everything she had with strangers who could have killed her. Sometimes the impossible began with the smallest act of trust. "We start the same way we started with Jinwoo," she said to the gathering. "We sit down together, and we share everything we have." The response was immediate. Hundreds of crystal wolves began settling onto the purple grass of Kethera 7. Pack leaders who had been mortal enemies for generations found themselves sitting next to each other. Ancient territorial boundaries dissolved as the sharing circles expanded to include everyone present, and in the center of it all, a small human scientist continued to do what she had always done best. She shared her knowledge, her hope, and her absolute faith that any problem could be solved when people chose to work together instead of apart. The revolution had begun with a single act of sitting down. Now it was spreading across an entire civilization, one sharing circle at a time. 6 months had passed since that first day when Hyone sat down on the purple grass of Kethera 7. The small research outpost had grown into something that neither species had ever imagined possible. Crystal structures created by the wolves now stood alongside human prefabricated buildings, creating a city that sparkled with both technology and natural beauty. Hyone walked through the central plaza where humans and crystal wolves worked side by side on their latest project. A massive garden filled with plants from both Earth and the wolves' homeworld grew in carefully planned harmony. The crystal trees sang their ancient melodies, while Earth flowers added bright colors that had never existed in this alien place before. "The soil composition is perfect now," called Dr. Sungmin, a botanist who had arrived with the second wave of human scientists. "The symbiotic relationship between our plants and their crystal organisms is working better than we hoped." Jinwoo padded up beside Hyune, his crystalline body now decorated with small earth flowers that had been woven into his fur by human children. The sight still made her smile. Who would have thought that deadly pack hunters could be so gentle with youngsters? "The morning report," Jinwoo said through their telepathic connection, his mental voice now carrying warm familiarity, instead of the careful uncertainty of their first contact. Images flowed into Hyune's mind, showing the progress. Across multiple worlds, the sharing circle concept had spread far beyond Kethera 7. On distant planets, crystal wolf packs were learning to work together for the first time in their species' history. Worlds that had been dying from resource competition were now healing, as former enemies became partners. 17 worlds have started joint restoration projects this week, Hyune said aloud for the benefit of her human colleagues. And the medical exchange program has cured the crystal plague that was affecting the outer territories. Taeho looked up from his communication station. Earth Command is requesting another progress report. They still cannot believe what is happening out here. Hyune laughed. She understood their disbelief. The transformation had been so rapid and complete that it seemed almost magical, but she had watched it happen step by step, sharing circle by sharing circle as two species learned to see each other not as competitors, but as partners. "Tell them that the joint exploration fleet will launch next month," she said. Humans and crystal wolves working together to find new worlds for peaceful settlement. Through the plaza, she could see examples of that cooperation everywhere. Human engineers worked with crystal wolves to design ships that combined both technologies. Wolf telepathy allowed for perfect coordination between crew members, while human creativity found solutions that pure logic might miss. Together, they were achieving things that neither species could accomplish alone. Kang Ho approached their group, his massive form no longer radiating the aggressive energy that had marked their first meeting. The former pack leader had become one of the strongest advocates for cooperation, using his influence to convince the most stubborn traditionalists. "The healing project on Veltar is complete," Kang Ho reported through the telepathic network. "The crystal forests are singing again for the first time in 3 generations." The news brought joy to every wolf in range of the telepathic connection. Hyune felt their happiness as if it were her own, a warm glow that reminded her daily of how much their lives had changed. "How many worlds have been restored now?" asked Minsu, who had evolved from a nervous security officer into the coordinator of interspecies law enforcement. Crystal wolf telepathy had made crime nearly impossible since dishonesty could be detected instantly. 43 worlds are fully restored, Jinwoo answered. Another 112 are in active healing. We estimate that all are dying. Worlds will be saved within 5 years. 5 years. Hyune remembered when Jinwoo's people had thought their civilization would not survive another decade. The power of cooperation had not just saved them, it had given them a future filled with possibilities they had never imagined. A soft chiming sound drew their attention to the communication station. Teho's equipment was receiving a priority. Message from the outer territories. What is it? Hyuni asked. Teho's face lit up with excitement as he read the transmission. First contact. A new species has been detected in the Andorian sector. The Joint Exploration Fleet wants to know if you will lead the diplomatic mission. Hyune felt a familiar thrill at the prospect of meeting another alien civilization. But this time would be different. This time she would not be representing just humanity. She would be speaking for the new alliance between humans and crystal wolves, demonstrating that cooperation between species was not just possible, but powerful. When do we leave? She asked. The fleet can be ready in 72 hours, Jin Woo said. Both human and crystal wolf ships will participate in the mission. As the news spread through the telepathic network, Hyune felt the excitement of hundreds of crystal wolves who wanted to be part of this new adventure. For a species that had once known only competition and conflict, the chance to make peaceful contact with other beings was irresistibly appealing. That evening, Hyune sat in her favorite spot at the edge of the plaza. It was the same location, where she had first sat down 6 months ago, when everything had seemed uncertain and dangerous. Now it was the heart of a thriving community, where two species lived and worked as one people. Jinwoo settled beside her, his crystal body warm against the cooling evening air. Other wolves and humans gathered around them, forming the same kind of sharing circle that had started their entire transformation. Do you ever regret sitting down that first day? Jinwoo asked through their private telepathic connection. Hyune smiled and reached out to touch the crystal patterns on his fur. How could I regret the best decision I ever made? Through the connection, she felt Jinwoo's amusement and affection. But underneath those emotions was something deeper, something that all the wolves carried now. Gratitude for the human who had chosen trust over fear, sharing over hoarding, cooperation over competition. What do you think we will find when we meet this new species? Asked Dr. Sung-min. I do not know, Hyune replied, but I know how we will meet them. We will sit down, and we will share everything we have. Kang Ho's mental laughter rippled through the telepathic network. The galaxy will never be the same. As the alien stars appeared in the darkening sky above Cathara 7, Hyune thought about all the worlds where sharing circles were forming. On planets across the galaxy, beings who had once been enemies were learning to work together. The crystal wolf's gift of telepathy was spreading the cooperation concept faster than ships could travel, as each contact shared the experience with others across the mental network. We are creating something new, she said softly. Not just an alliance between our species, but a completely different way of living in the universe. Jinwoo's presence in her mind grew warmer. You gave us more than cooperation. You gave us hope. A shooting star streaked across the alien sky, and Hyun-A made a wish. Not for herself, but for all the species they had yet to meet. She hoped that they too would choose to sit down when strangers arrived at their worlds. She hoped they would discover the power of sharing everything instead of hiding anything. And she hoped that someday the entire galaxy would be filled with sharing circles where beings from countless worlds work together to solve any problem and explore every possibility. The pack had grown beyond anything she could have imagined. It now included humans and crystal wolves, and soon it would include whatever new friends they found among the stars. The girl who had sat down on purple grass and shared her lunch with alien predators had become the leader of a revolution that was spreading across the galaxy one sharing circle at a time. And she was just getting started. As the night deepened around their peaceful city, Hyun-A closed her eyes and felt the mental presence of thousands of crystal wolves across dozens of worlds. All of them carried the same message in their collective consciousness, a simple truth that had changed everything. Sharing made them stronger, trust made them fearless, and cooperation made them unstoppable. The human had not fled the pack. She had made the pack stronger than it had ever dreamed of being.